if you're not used, you can actually mute.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to this new session of the Open Seats program. Today we are moving beyond the why of open science and diving into the how. We will look at the actual tools, how to design projects that are open from the very beginning, and crucially, how to protect and share our work using open licenses. So this will be a practical hands-on section. So my name is Jafsia Elisee, as Magak presented. I'm a former mentee of the OLS programs. I'm mainly involved in open hardwares and also in electromechanics in an open space in Cameroon called the Ebola. So we will start our presentation with a reflection. So before we talk about those, I want us to feel why open matters. So in 2014, during the Ebola crisis, critical viral data was collected in Sierra Leone, and it was published in the top journal. But the raw data was kept close while the virus mutated and spread. The global scientific community was kept in the dark. So take 3 minutes right now, type your answer to these 3 questions into the chat or the former part. And the 3 questions are, who suffered the most from locked data? What if the data were opened? And who really owns data collected during a crisis? We have 3 minutes we can discuss in the chat to answer these 3 questions about the Sierra Leone Ebola data dilemma. Okay. Now that we have spent the 3 minutes, could we answer the first question? Who suffered most from logged data? Or the second question, what if data was open from day one? Does the data collecting country own it? So for Ebola, we will say log data cost lives. Because remember, Ebola is a very, very contagious disease. And if we log the data, it makes it very difficult for other researchers to have them and to try to get a solution to the virus spread. And if data were opened from day one, we can assume that it would have been possible to save lives. And now, let's carry this urgency into today's session about the dilemma of openness. So our part one session will be about open by design, from invisible workflow to transparent collaboration. So generally, we often think of open as something we do at the end of a project, like publishing a paper. But open science is most powerful when it is backed into the project from day one. What are open tools and resources? When we say open tools, we are not just talking about software. We are talking about a complete system, sorry. It is, for example, using open access journals so that the community can read our work. Open access journal like +1, or repositories like preprints like Africa Archive. It's also about using open source programming languages like R and Python instead of expensive proprietary software. It's about sharing your data on platforms like Zenodo, using FAIR principle to make your data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So it is the entire toolkit that removes barriers to knowledge. That's what open source resources are. They are there to make and to promote transparency, collaboration, and accessibility.
Hello, Jafsia.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Could the rest of the team confirm if your slides are moving? Yeah, I think I'm still.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Now they're okay.
Okay. Thanks. So there is a subtle and massive difference between the two concepts of open by default and open by design. So for example, open by default means you finish your project and then you say, okay, I guess I will put this PDF online. This is an afterthought. Open by design means on day one, when you write your proposal, for example, you are already planning how you will share the data, what open tools you will use, and how community will access the findings. Open by design is proactive, intentional, inherently more equitable. In open by default, it's a reactive action approach, I would say. It's generally making outputs available at the end of the projects. It's an afterthought, it's not planned. But open by design, you are incorporating your open practices from day one because you are thinking of disseminating everything at the end of the day. It's also really empowering when you use the open by design approach. How to implement open by default? So if a project is open by default, it operates like a glass house. That's why it is called the glass house model. So it means you set up a project like a website. You can create a shared drive where every meeting minutes, it's automatically dumping. People can see what you are doing, but they are mostly observers. That is open by default. It is transparent, but it is not necessarily collaborative. That is what it's called open by default. In contrary, you have the open by design approach, which flips the dynamic. Here, you don't just publish a report. You hold community workshop, for example, to co-create the solutions. You don't just upload a PDF. You translate findings into local languages, for example. You share them via local radio, for example, also. You can establish a community advisory board so that people affected by your research actually have decision-making power. So open by design builds trust, and trust is the more valuable currency we have. A case study is from invisible to citizens. This was my project with OLS 3 years ago. And it was about trying to determine the apparent age for children in northern Cameroon without birth certificates. So the challenge was that those children without birth certificates are legally invisible. They are unable to access school. And the approach was moving from simple transparency to open by design, by engaging parents, local leaders, and NGOs to co-create registration solutions while providing multilingual accessible material. Without a certificate, a child is invisible to the state. And now, if this project was just open by default, I guess we will have just said, okay, yeah, we did the research, let's publish a report saying, okay, we have this registration rate and we have this number of young people who don't have a birth certificate. This is meaning open by, if it was open by default. But now, if the project was open by design, we will share data. Those data, not just publishing the data at the end that we have low rates of kids getting birth certificate. We will have shared the data with local leaders. We will have worked with those leaders to co-create the solution, spread and talk to the people in their local languages, and maybe build a framework for a local advocacy. So not just publishing the end result after collecting the data, after reviewing and analyzing them, but integrating the communities from the start of the project up to co-creating the solution together. So from this case study, we will then jump into the breakout rooms for this first scenario about the DRC displacement data. I think we will be 4 to 5 people in the breakout rooms, try to analyze this scenario. And the scenario is about an NGO in Democratic Republic of Congo. And they have tracked internally displaced people in North Kivu. They have collected GPS coordinate of displaced household, their ethnicity, and also their trauma level. A European university partner asked for the raw data set to run a machine learning model to predict future displacement. So what you will discuss in the breakout rooms is it possible to share these data openly? Why or why not? What open by design principle should have been applied before data collection? And the third question, how will you structure a data sharing agreement that protects displaced community while allowing ethical research? This is the scenario and the questions. If you have, if you need a clarification before going into the breakout rooms, the door is open to ask the questions. Okay, welcome back. We'll continue the discussion in the main room. I want each group to maybe give us or provide us what they discuss into their respective breakout rooms. Could you please share your findings and discuss on things you discuss in your respective breakout rooms with the others? Samuel Benson, do you want to say something? Or Ismaila? Are you getting me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We can get you.
Anyone hear me? Hello?
Yes.
All right, for my group, first question, can the data be shared openly? The answer is no, because it contains some sensitive information that could be used to target the individuals involved, these individuals. For the second question, what's done by design principle should have applied? The one that comes to mind is data anonymization. A safe approach. And then the third aspect, the agreement part, consent by participants. Also, what are they using it for? The European community. I believe that purpose, a big word like machine learning training, they will need more details for the agreement to know what the data will be used for and what they're signing off on. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
There's a comment from Zainab on the chat box. So Jafsia, you can also check on that. Yeah.
Yes, Zainab says, I think the data should not be entirely shared openly because of confidentiality and protection of the affected individual unless granted consent. Inclusive participation and radical accessibility for the question 2. And for question 3, the data should only be shared to licensed researchers with consent from affected individual. I think all of our answers are going into the same direction. So here, imagine that you share the data. While, for example, the armed groups M23, which is in the North Kivu, get access to this open data, while they are targeting someone and you have collected information about that person. And the armed groups gets those data. So it means the person is already will be at risk to be killed. So for this first question, it is clear that it is not advisable to completely have this data opened. And for the open by design principle, we were able to say that, okay, open by design means consent. We need consent and we need data anonymization. That should happen before data collection. And how will we structure a data sharing agreement that protects the displaced community and allowing ethical research? In the data sharing agreement, we should include a clause on derivative use of the data and also about community safety. Just like I said in the beginning, imagine the data, the M23 gets the data and start targeting people based on the GPS, ethnicity, and everything. So these were mainly what we discussed and what you people said into during your discussion and the answers you provided. So after this exercise, you will jump straight to the part 2 of our presentation. Let me start sharing my screen again. Do you see my screen?
Yeah, sure. We're able to see it.
Okay. So now we are moving to part 2 after discussing about open by design, open by default. So the part 2, which will be the most technical part of this section, it is about open licenses. You can use all the open tools and resources that exist in the world. But if you don't attach the correct legal license to your work, I think it may be like it is still locked. Your work is still locked. So if you want your work to be fully open, you need to affix a license to it. So let's fix it and try to dive into which open licenses we can use and how we can use them. So why open licenses matter? Imagine that you have a report. You upload the report to your website, but you don't put a license on it. And generally, the law assumes that your work is all right reserved, meaning nobody can translate it. A teacher can't use it in a class, for example, in Nairobi. Another organization can't adapt it to their own program unless they email you and ask for permission. It means that is closed if you don't attach a license. But an open license is a pre-written legal contract that says to the world that you are allowed to use this Here are the rules. It removes the frictions that you would have gone through if there was not a license appended to the work. So the Creative Commons, which is CC, is the global standard for open licensing. It works like Lego blocks. Every CC license starts with BY. So BY is the attribution. You always have to give credit. Then you can add a strict restriction. For example, NC means nobody can make money out of the work that he's trying to replicate. So NC is for non-commercial. Non-commercial is just a law. If you have labeled your work NC. SA means if you change my work, you have to share your new version under the same exact rules. SA stands for share alike. ND means you can share my work, but you cannot change it or remix it. ND stands for no derivative. You can also, there is also options to combine this block to create your specific license. So for example, if you have a license, if you want it to be SA and non-commercial, you can associate SA and NC to have a blend license with SA and NC. You can have SA and ND. If you can mix them to have a license too. Okay, from the mixing of those four, you have 6 CC licenses called the spectrum of openness. CC0 is the ultimate open. It means here you surrender all your rights. It means also it belongs to the public. It's public domain dedication, no right reserved. CC-BY, which is the gold standard for open science, means just give me the credit. When you go to CC-BY and SA, it means we start adding some restriction. And our works start to become less and less open in the sense of being reusable and adaptable. By the time you get maybe to CC-BY NC, which is number 4, or maybe CC-BY NC-ND, it means people can download your work, read it, but they cannot change a single word. They cannot use it in any context that involves money, and that is incredibly restrictive. So it means based on the 4 CC-BY licenses, you can add based on what you need or what you are expecting from your work, from your project. You can mix them as you want, from most open to the least open or restrictive one. We have what is called the NC debate. Generally, when people are fearing exploitation of their work, which is open, sometimes the instinct is to slap an NC license on everything to maybe sometimes stop big corporations from stealing the work. But we can also notice that the NC is a blunt instrument. It doesn't just stop a corporation in London. It stops a small tech startup in Kigali from building an app, maybe using your data, that is labeled NC. It stops also a local cooperative from using maybe your agricultural research to sell data crops. Furthermore, commercial is a legal nightmare. So for open science to truly empower, for example, we in the Global South, we need to move toward most of the time the use to CC-BY to maximize impact. CC-BY has this advantage to credit the author, but also allow the ecosystem to build on the work. So that's why most of the time for open works, you will see them labeled with the license CC-BY. And that's for open science most of the time. That's where people are encouraged to use the license CC-BY. But we just talked about written work, uploaded PDF and things on our website. But when it comes to software and data, Creative Commons or CC licenses are not really appropriate or suitable. And even in their website or in their licenses, Creative Commons explicitly states that their licenses are not for software. So if you are developing an open software, you are not supposed to use the CC licenses. So imagine you are writing a Python script to analyze conflict data, for example, and you label it under the CC-BY. So you are just creating legal ambiguity. So for software, it's advisable to use free and open source software first licenses. For permissive licenses, you will use MIT or Apache. And permissive means do whatever, but just credit. For copyleft, you have a license like GPL v3, meaning that you need to share the modifications. These are for software. For data, the specific licenses for data, we can use CC0, which is public domain, and it's the best practice for data. If you want your data to be fully open, you can use the CC0 license. Or you use the ODC-BY. And by using the ODC-BY, it means the attribution, you need to add the attributions. Attribution is required. So for applying licenses, we also have best practices. So the acronym is TASL. And TASL stands for title, author, source, and license. So if you use a photo from Wikimedia using the TASL approach, you must list the photographer's name, link to where you found it, and state the license like CC BY 4.0, and put this in the caption of the image. The footer of a presentation, or the metadata of a data set. So generally, this is a legal requirement for the license. Where to put them, you can, it can be in the beginning or the end of the document. Generally clear attribution in headers or footnotes. It can also stand on the footer of a website, visible on every page. For images, is directly below the visual contents. And for metadata, for metadata or data sets, it should be embedded in data files and records. So this is how we can use the TASL approach: title, author, source, and license. So the four should go together. So if we are okay with the open licenses, we have the activity 2, which is about the peace building toolkit. We can apply everything we have just learned into the breakout room for another 10 minutes. And this scenario will mix text, data, and software, and a very tricky ethical question about indigenous knowledge. It will be very important here to think about the difference between CC, CCO, or free open source software licenses. And it's a scenario about an organization based in Uganda, which has developed a conflict resolution training curriculum, which is a written text. They have developed a data set on community dialogues. And they have also developed a mobile app to track early warning signs. And a founder requires everything to be open. So what you are supposed to discuss into the breakout rooms, question 1 will be about the curriculum, about the conflict resolution curriculum. What specific CC license will you apply for your conflict resolution curriculum? The second question will be about the data set. What specific data license will you apply? The third question will be about the mobile app. What specific free and open source software license will you apply? And the fourth question is about the ethical dilemma, saying that the curriculum includes traditional elders oral teaching. Can you apply a standard CC license to this elder original teaching? What will be the ethical considerations? So these are the questions. I hope you are already in the breakout rooms. You have various discussion into the breakout rooms. Other people willing to share?
Yes, we have a hand from Gomez.
Hello, everyone. So our group, we thought about using the CC-BY licensing to the curriculum, but we couldn't finish the data one. To the software, we choose MIT or the GPL version 3.
Hi, Gomez. Sorry, we lost Gomez.
I'm not sure from my group.
Yeah, okay.
For my group, the curriculum, we chose CC-BY so that they will get credit. For the data was ODC-BY license. And then for the
Yes.
software, we chose MIT. Use the software, but give us credit. That's all.
That's fine. It means you have not tried the question 4.
There were 3 questions. If I'm mistaken.
Okay. So for room 1 from Ebenezer, first question CC-BY, second question ODC-BY, and the third is MIT license. Thank you. I think it's almost clear for everyone here that, okay, for curriculum, the golden standard is CC-BY or CC-BY SA. So if you add SA, just to say that, okay, share under the same terms, it can be CC-BY or CC-BY SA. For data, most of you said ODC-BY. That is fine. And by using the CC-BY, we should be aware of the fact that there will be an important fact about not identifying information about the vulnerable populations from which the data have been collected. For the third question about the software, MIT license is also the golden standard here. And the fourth question was about the curriculum, and we can also discuss the question together in the main room. The curriculum includes, let me share the screen again. The curriculum includes traditional elders oral teaching. Can you apply a standard Creative Commons license? What are the ethical considerations? So we said that CC-BY is the golden standard for curriculums if you want them to be opened. But here, for traditional oral teachings, is it possible to apply the Creative Commons license? So generally, indigenous knowledge does not belong to an isolated author. It's sometimes a knowledge from a group. It's a knowledge from a group. So it makes it very, very difficult to have it CC labeled, because it doesn't belong to an isolated person. So generally, what we need for traditional knowledge is simply a free, prior, and informed consent. What is with the acronym FPIC, free, prior, and informed consent for indigenous knowledge. Sometimes people will label it TK. TK to say, okay, this is traditional knowledge as a copyright, just as a copyright, and add TK to let people about to use it that, okay, this is traditional knowledge. But if you want to use it, you just need a free, prior, and informed consent. Not you cannot label it as a CC license, with a CC license. That was maybe the ethical dilemma here for this question about traditional knowledge. So as conclusion of this presentation, and as I will want to emphasize that you don't need to be perfect when dealing with open science tools and resources. If the only thing, for example, you do this month is to add a CC BY license to your report, to a report that you already wrote, that is fine, okay? So if you upload your data set to Zenodo, you already have made a step to make science more open, because as you know, Zenodo is an open repository. So the goal is progress, not perfection. We just need to pick what action from the list and go ahead. So this was what I wanted to say about as a conclusion to this presentation. Some references and resources. Thank you for your engagement, your critical thinking in the exercises, and your commitment to making research more transparent and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jafsia, for the nice presentation. I hope we've all learned, and I'm very happy on the comment you made, especially on the free, prior, and informed consent, that is FPIC, for the indigenous knowledge licenses, and the way you brought it. Thank you very much. So just getting back to our participants in a quick succession, we'll just like to welcome a few questions. Anyone with questions for our presenter? We are running short of time, and we apologize for that, but I'll just like anyone with a question, you can raise up your hand, and we'll give you a chance to unmute and administer your question to our expert, Jafsia. We can also use the frame pad to add our question that can even be responded beyond the session. Yes. So, any questions so far? Going once, going twice. Okay, but I would like us to still add our questions on the front part section, and so that our expert is able to respond to the group Q&A question. That's the questions that we'll be presenting. Yeah, so as we complete this is very important. I'll just like to welcome Graciel to take us through the coaching sessions that we need to sign up for. Yeah, then after that, we'll just end the session. We apologize for taking much of your time. Graciel, if you can hear me, this is your time now.
Hi, sorry. It's just a quick reminder for everyone to sign up for the coaching sessions. We have 2 more coming up next week. The next one will be on April 27, and the next one will be on April 29. Both of them at 6 p.m. UTC. So if you're interested in contacting the experts and asking questions, go to the spreadsheet that we shared by email and share your document with your questions about your projects, about your background, and what you want to discuss with the experts. The next cohort call will be next week about open data. Actually, this week, 2 days from now, April 23, at 3 p.m. UTC +1, so 2 p.m. UTC. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you our participants for joining. We were more than overwhelmed to have you, and we are very happy for the active participation, especially on the front part session. Yeah, you can open your camera, say hi to one another as we leave, and we wish you the best of luck with the rest of the sessions. Thank you.